Growing up, my grandmother's freezer was always filled to the max, stuffed beyond capacity at times. You name it, it was in there. Frozen meals, leftover, frozen vegetables, frozen desserts. And so you knew that when you opened Grandma's freezer, you had to be careful because chances were good that you opened that door and something would either fall or fly out. Frozen meat, sherbet containers, ice cream bars. And so the joke along the years became Grandma's freezer is booby-trapped. And it didn't matter how often you opened it and put everything back in a specific place, chances were good the next time you opened that again, something, anything, whatever it was, would fly out, and you'd have to do it all over again. And while frozen meats and sherbet containers can leave their mark, they're certainly nowhere near as deadly as the booby traps found in the 1980s classic, The Goonies. This story about this group of boys that are devastated at the thoughts of having to move out of their neighborhood, their houses being foreclosed upon, bought out so the local country club can expand. They decide to set out on this wondrous last adventure in search of One-Eyed Willie's treasure and long-lost pirate ship after finding a map in one of the boys' Mikey's attic. They put Mikey's older brother, Brandon, in a locked position and trap him in his own exercise equipment before setting out to make sure that they can get far enough on their way before being stopped. Only they find out along the way that they need to get into an abandoned summer restaurant. That is the starting point on the treasure map. And the abandoned restaurant is now the hideout for the murderous thieves, the Fratellis. The boys, almost all of them, somehow managed to make it into the basement fireplace trapdoor along their journey, escaping the Fratellis, only to come across booby traps and other obstacles along the way, with the map only somewhat helping. These booby traps and obstacles that make it so they have to work together. Every step of the way, at least one, if not a few or all of them, help them to keep going. Mikey, the encourager, continues to speak how this adventure could very well be their last. How if they don't go into the fireplace, what life will they have left here in Astoria? They're all about to move anyway. He holds on to the promise that things will get better. He holds on to the hope all along the way, even in the midst of life-threatening danger. He reminds them how this ragtag group of youth, these Goonies, have made it further than any expert before them. And he gives them all hope as they journey together along this way. Data, with all his inventions, both sets booby traps and uses them to save his own life with his clenching teeth. He helps to save the rest of them using his slippery shoes to slow the Fratellis down, and when they get too close, he uses his extended punching arm to knock them back a bit. Without mouth, they wouldn't be able to read or translate this map that is completely in Spanish, which is needed to help them get to the entrance point, to help move them through the obstacles and get them to the pirate ship. Brandon, Mikey's older brother, seems to be the one who can keep them all calm. Even though he argues not to go on this adventure because it's not safe from the very beginning, once he is on this journey in the tunnels and caves, in the midst of near-death experiences, especially his own, he continues to help keep them all calm. Andy and Steph, the two female lead roles, are both also needed here. Andy, both a warrior and one who cares deeply, finds herself holding everyone up while needing to use her rusty piano skills. Steph continues to bring people back to reality that they sometimes don't always see, don't want to see, but always need to see. Even Chunk, while he is the one who doesn't make it into the fireplace, tries to run for help, then gets locked in a room with Sloth, comes to join his friends to help save them from the Fratellis after the police don't believe this tall tale teller. He forms this very real and very deep relationship with Sloth almost immediately. The relationship that helps save his friends, get them out of the cave safely, and even helps save Sloth, all from the Fratellis. This ragtag group of youth, these Goonies, have been having these adventures since as long as they can remember. And while none compares to this, they have already learned, they know, they can't do it alone. The group, the body, each one of them is needed. Their skills, their gifts, and as much as they make fun of one another along the way for each of them, they are all needed. Much like what Paul tells the Corinthians in his letter to this newly formed community. No one is greater than the rest. All are needed, all have different skills and gifts, and all make up the body of Christ. The foot is no more important than the hand, nor the nose more important than the ear. Every part of the body, from the eyes all the way down to the pinky toe, are needed. Every skill and gift, from prophecy to discernment, from gifts of healing to gifts of teaching, all are needed. Not one can be ignored, left out, or pushed aside. For when one in the body is left out, it negatively affects the whole body. I mean, if Andy had left the Goonies for safety going up that wishing well, it would have negatively affected the rest of the group. Who else would have been able to play the piano? If Mikey wasn't so hopeful, they all would have lost hope long before even starting this wondrous adventure, before entering the fireplace. All are needed. And here's the thing. As it was with the Goonies, as it was with Paul in his letter to the Corinthians, so it is still true today. All are needed. All gifts, all people are needed to be gathered into the body of Christ. All are needed in our great diversity of identity, race, gender, socioeconomic status. You name it. In every diverse way, we are needed to form the body. Not one of us, or even just a few of us, can do it. We need and are called, everyone, to do it together. Paul goes further than just saying that all are needed. He goes on to say that when one is suffering, all are suffering. If one rejoices, all rejoice. This is how closely connected we are as the body of Christ. It's what we see in the Goonies. As one suffered, they all suffered. When one rejoiced, they all rejoiced. And well, right now in our country, even within the church universal, there is suffering. Black and brown siblings are being killed at alarming rates by violence and sin. Black men can't go for a run without the threat of their lives. They can't go bird watching without the police being called on them. They can't sell CDs or cigarettes or leave parties safely. Black boys can't play cops and robbers or go buy a pack of Skittles. Black women can't get pulled over, seek help from police, or even sleep in their own homes without the threat to their life. The Black community can't go to church, can't go to Bible study without threats on their lives. And to put this into perspective, the young white nationalist terrorist who went into that church and killed those individuals and forever scarred the lives of others present was taken alive safely, and police even bought him Burger King after this horrific event. Our siblings are suffering. They are hurting. They are living in fear, and for far too long, many of us have remained silent, ignored it, looked the other way, or thought we have moved on from all of that happened in the 60s. We let our siblings suffer as if they are not a part of us, a part of our body, like we don't, or like we didn't or don't need them. Like a diabetic, we have let the wound on our foot fester for too long, in hopes that ignoring it, it would just go away. But the truth is, Now it's going to be a very painful healing process, but a healing process that is needed, greatly needed. We must come together. We must learn to listen to each other, to believe each other's stories, to help raise others' voices that we don't always listen to. We must support everyone's gifts, everyone's skills, everyone's personhood, everyone's imago Dei, created in the image of God. For there is a better way, a more excellent way, when we strive to do this together. And so I just wonder what more wonderful, more excellent way God has for us if we truly live into being the body of Christ. If we suffered and rejoiced with one another, if we lifted each other's gifts up and talents up, if we recognize that all are needed to make up the body of Christ, if we listen to and believe the stories of our siblings and how they are hurting, in what ways change is needed so that one day we may all be able to rejoice together. If we lifted up all skills and gifts of the Spirit, if we recognize the Spirit at work in one another, if we put aside our own safety to go out on an amazing and at times life-threatening adventure, to save our community, to save our world, a more excellent way. So let us listen to one another, learn to value, appreciate, and lift up each other's gifts and talents. Let us learn to love one another, truly love one another, so that when one suffers, we all suffer, so that there is the hope that we hold on to, that we can all one day truly and fully rejoice together. Let us realize that all are needed to make up the body of Christ, to fully live out being the body of Christ in and for the world. And let us start today.